Jen Krebs with Holiday Inn, and I'm pleased to present one of our first collaborations with Jeremy Ries. Am I saying that right?
Yes, ma'am. Jeremy Ries.
Jeremy Ries, and he is with MoCo Bottoms Labs. I had the pleasure of meeting him one day. He came into our facility and explained who he was. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about meeting Jeremy is he has the same kind of ethical mentality of his business. He's about quality as opposed to quantity. And I love the fact that he has such a passion for what he's doing. But I'm going to let him describe a little bit more of who he is and how he came to be what he is today in regards to the business that he's in. So Jeremy, just take us down that road a little bit and explain who you are and tell our guest, our clients, our guests, a little bit about you and your business.
All right. Thanks for having me, Jen. It's a pleasure meeting you a couple of weeks ago, too. I'm Jeremy Ries. I'm the trainer and owner of MoCo Bottoms Labs, located outside of Valmeyer here in Monroe County, Illinois. We breed and train retrievers. We breed Labrador retrievers, high quality, from health-tested parents, with titled parents that come from championship pedigrees. Some of the biggest stud dogs in the country are in history of field trials and hunt test games. We have them in our pedigrees, not just down the line, but pretty direct to our dogs that we own. As the one dog, her dad's the 2016 National Field Trial Champion of the U.S. But we try to breed healthier, better quality dogs, and we train retrievers for people for hunting and for the hunt test competitions in AKC and HRC. I've been doing dog games about 7 years, training dogs, messing around, doing the competitions. I grew up here in Monroe County. I'm a lifelong resident that I grew up duck hunting around here in the Mississippi River bottoms and down along the Kaskaskia River. Grew up with gun dogs my whole life, but nothing like the ones that we're training now. And it's a whole other level of excellence, as I like to say it, and performance that I never saw as a kid growing up. Our dogs deliver to hand. They're steady to the gunshot, which makes them better dogs and makes them more safe for the hunters.
Sure.
Well,
I guess we should also probably put a disclaimer in regards to what we're going to talk about today. And again, thank you so much for doing this with us. I think it's important that people understand, not everybody, we love to support shelters and rescues, and we think that there's obviously a great need for that, but there's also a great need for people to understand, if you're going to get a dog from a breeder, that you get a dog from a reputable, responsible breeder. And, this is something that you, again, are very passionate about. And at the same time, you're not here to present every type of breed. You're specifically focused on labs, but here again, even though that's your core understanding, there's nothing to say that what you're presenting today isn't necessarily a good idea for any breed when you're looking for a good quality breeder, correct?
Sure. OFA, the Orthopedic Foundation for Animals, that sets a lot of the guidelines for health testing. They actually have on their website, you can look at what tests for genetics and other stuff a breeder should do to the parents before breeding them by the species of dog.
Sure.
Whether it's a Labrador or Chesapeake Bay Retriever, Golden Retriever, they got a whole list of different breeds. I'm more familiar with the retrievers, of course.
Right.
But yeah, this stuff can translate to any dog. And like you said, I support shelters. I'm for them. They have a place. But if you're buying responsible breeders like me and others that I know, our dogs don't end up in shelters.
Right.
Like I tell all my clients when they're buying a puppy, if something comes up and you can't keep that puppy, I will gladly take it back in. I don't want my dogs ending up in shelters. It's just not a place for them. I will find something better for them, whether I have to keep them or if I place them with somebody else.
Sure. Sure. And that's great to know too. I mean, that really is important. And something that shows, again, your ethical nature, and the caring of the animals that you are producing. So I think that's wonderful. We're going to get into our presentation, and this is the first of hopefully more. We'd love to have Jeremy back, but we wanted to at least get his information out to you all in hopes that you can talk to him directly if you'd like, or hopefully Jeremy will host some other great presentations, and hopefully we'll get better at this as we go forward. This is our first try as well. So let's get into our presentation and talk a little bit more about what we're wanting to show everyone today. Choosing a responsible breeder, and Jeremy, you can discuss this, but the things that we want to talk today about are researching your breed, health testing is necessary, and how to check out your possible breeders. So we're going to jump into research your breed, and Jeremy, talk about this. Know your expectations. What do you mean by that?
You need to know what kind of size of dog you're looking at from the breed, the temperaments, and health issues, and just the normal nature of the dog. What kind of surroundings do they fit best in? I know with retrievers, there is what they call parent clubs that set the standards for what they call breed standards. And there's the Labrador Retriever Club of America that does it for Labradors. It sets for breeders to try and stay within the guidelines of certain weights, certain heights, certain colors, and sets what genetic tests and other health testing issues get set by OFA and with the registries, with AKC and UKC.
Sure. And so I have more familiarity, forgive me, with horses as far as their breed lines and so forth. But talking about titles and pedigrees, you mentioned that really does matter. Tell me a little bit more about that, and how do you research that?
If you go to the AKC website and the UKC websites, they have each their own field divisions and their own show divisions.
Okay.
They have different standards for show dogs and field dogs, but you can get titles in both. The field, which is what I do with the hunt test games, it simulates sort of like duck hunting and stuff, and there's different levels of titles you can earn by going to these competitions and performing to the standard that is expected for each level based upon. So it's not a competition with others, it's a pass-fail type deal.
Okay.
To the standard that is set for each level of title.
Okay. All right. And pedigrees, all of that information is available on those sites as well?
Yeah. They can give you the breeder should supply you with a pedigree of any puppies you're thinking of getting.
Okay.
And when you get an official copy or photo or image of the pedigree, it should show their titles before and after their registered name, depending on which venue they're earned in.
Okay. And are these pieces of information necessary for competition?
The registration is, but for as far as I ain't saying you can't get good dogs without a registration, but registrations don't mean high quality either without the health testing and other factors.
Sure.
Papers are nice, but the health testing and the titles and the pedigrees really back all of it up into one package. The pedigree with showing a bunch of titled ancestors, I guess is the best word to use for it, throughout the pedigree, shows that them dogs have been bred and been able to perform to certain standards from generation to generation, which in the end increases your odds of getting a dog that's going to perform to your expectations better at the end.
Okay.
It makes it less of a gamble, I would say, is
Makes
the best
sense.
way. You're like a guy like me. I want a good pedigree with a lot of titles. I want parents' title because that shows me everybody's been able to do that and pass it down. And that way I'm hoping that, instead of having a 50-50 chance of getting a dog that can perform up to my expectations in competitions, I'm hoping to get about a 95, 90, I'm just kind of throwing numbers out there, but I don't really know for sure. Nobody's done studies on it, but you're hedging your odds.
Got it. Well, and that makes sense. I mean, especially with the amount of work that goes into what you're doing, it makes sense. So let's talk about health testing. You broached that subject for a minute. Let's talk a little bit about that. You mentioned health testing, OFA. What is OFA?
OFA is a not-for-profit organization located in Columbia, Missouri, where you send your test results to them and they register them into this database by breed.
Okay.
And it's mainly veterinarians and stuff, but they actually, like with Labrador Retrievers, you get the x-rays done at your vet or another vet that you choose, and they send them in and they approve a quality rating of your dog's hips before you breed it.
Okay.
So if they have passing and failing grades at different levels at each.
Mm-hmm.
So say you breed an excellent to an excellent dog, hips rating wise, chances are you're not going to have hip problems. In Labrador Retrievers, sometimes there is hip problems. Elbows, they do the same thing with elbow x-rays. Mm-hmm. And then we send our dogs to a vet optometrist in Chesterfield, mm-hmm. and they do a thing on the eyes, and they certify that. It's called a CERF.
Okay.
And they certify that there. Then we have genetic testing companies test for certain diseases, and we send them results there to go in the database because they use this for research and other things to see what. And that way, it's also a third-party type deal, so it certifies everything really well.
Right. As opposed to your own personal vet saying, this looks great. Yeah, you're getting further proof. Right. And like you said, there's no agenda there other than to provide a quality animal.
Right.
Neat. And so how common is this for breeders to go through this process?
I think it's really getting a little more and more as people get educated about it. Because like with the genetic diseases, it's really a bad thing. Two dogs can be carriers of a disease and never show a sign of any part of having the disease. But if you breed them same two carriers together, you'll get puppies that are called affected. So, and the puppy might not show any effects of the disease for a year or something, until it triggers it. But at that point, you're attached, you got money in it if you're having it trained, or time if you're training it yourself. Your family's attached to it, your children, and you got a dog that's not healthy. And you might have paid pretty good money for that dog, and it's not healthy.
Right.
It's really a heartbreaking thing. One of the main ones is EIC, exercise-induced collapse, and another one is central myopathy. And you can Google videos of it, of them, and they'll show you videos of affected dogs, and nobody wants that, trust me.
No, that sounds horrible. So as far as health testing certificates, because that's something that you recommend that anybody who goes to a breeder requests these, what specific health testing certificates should most reputable, responsible breeders have in hand? You mentioned a couple different things, so go back through that for me. I'm sorry.
Sure. Well, if you go to the OFA website, they also have a listing of different breeds and what is required by each one if you click on the breed. For Labrador Retrievers, the required ones are the x-rays of the hips and elbows.
Okay.
The surf of the eyes.
Right.
And your genetic diseases. They got some that are considered optional, and they have ones that they require for what they call a chick number. but the main ones are EIC, the CM, central myopathy, PRA, it's an eye disease, and some people are really now starting with Labradors pushing the cardiac testing because they're saying that from generation to generation there's some heart issues that could be passed on.
Oh.
OFA isn't requiring that yet, but it's starting to really pick up steam. I haven't yet had the opportunity to go take mine to get tested.
Interesting. Yeah, I know. I have friends that have issues or have complained about issues with golden retrievers and the amount of cancer that's running through that breed and dogs dying young due to cancer issues. So it's interesting that the heart is a big concern now for labs and that they're experiencing those kind of issues. So yeah, I mean, that's, and so I assume that hips, elbows, and something, and eyes are all those things with labs specifically where issues have resulted, and that's the reason why they're putting so much interest in those areas, or is that just typical for most dogs?
I'm not really sure. Like I said, I specify mostly in the Labradors, and then I
Right.
train other retrievers, but I would think the elbows and the hips are something that most breeds probably deal with a lot of issues. The eyes, I'm not really so sure about. And then definitely the hidden genetic diseases where, dogs can be carriers and not showing any symptoms.
Right.
You need to have
Right.
any test that's required for that breed because certain ones of them diseases, they run more in other breeds, in certain breeds than others.
Sure. Okay. So how to check out your possible breeders. Let's go through some of the things that you mentioned to me. References. Just general references, or is there a specific list that people should refer to?
I would look to people who bought puppies from them before,
Sure.
in the past. See if they have references of people that have bought puppies from them, how they are, and, comfortable with how they dealt with them and how their puppies have turned out. If it's up to that. Another thing is maybe their vet. Talk to their vet. The vet knows their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'd check out their house. Go
Yeah,
into their house.
but right, you said make a
Their
visit.
house or kennel and checking out their facilities, see where the
Right.
pups are being raised, how the dogs are being kept.
Right.
You see these puppy mills and people having everybody kept, all these, hundreds of dogs kept in a dirt yard with a chicken fence.
Right. Right. Yeah,
that's not being responsible.
No, and I think that's pretty easy to determine by when you show up and see exactly what you're getting. Correct?
Right. Yeah. Once you come to their kennel or house, depending on what kind of facilities they have, you'll be able to tell a lot from that visit.
Sure. And let's talk about the whelping process. You've shared some information with me about yours, but tell me about what kind of questions should you ask in regards to that?
In Illinois, the law is 8 weeks before they can sign the puppy over to you. But some of the stuff I do is what they call early neurological stimulation and socialization. Let the dogs the puppies, once they get moving a little bit and stuff, get outside, hear different noises somewhat, have people bring kids and pet them and stuff. You got to keep it a clean environment, but once they start getting a little older, before you give them to the owners, they need to start being mixed in around other dogs a little bit in the house if there is there, with other kids. Just having them socialized. And that continues even after the whelping process. It helps their neurological stimulation and just their development in whole.
Definitely. Well, and we're fortunate enough to have one of your puppies come to our facility for doggy daycare, and she's a trip. She's a great puppy. So, and I know they're excited about getting her into the next level of her training, which is good to hear. And I can't wait to see what she turns out to be. She's a neat dog for sure.
Right.
So if people want to learn more about you and your business. We've got your phone number listed on our PowerPoint here, email, and you got Facebook. Do you have a preference on the best way to reach you at this point?
The phone or on the Facebook page is really the best way.
Okay.
We don't have Twitter and some of them other fancy things, but we got a Facebook page.
I get it. I totally understand.
And we share lots of training stuff on there and puppy stuff when we're having puppies, and try to pass along educational material for bettering the breed and the knowledge of the people buying puppies.
That's
whether
fantastic.
they're buying them from us or not. We want to help people get a better puppy. If you get all the health testing done and have all the other good stuff, the puppy may cost you a little more, but in the long run, you're going to save on vet bills and get what you're wanting more, I think, is the best way to put it.
Definitely. One more question for you. So when a puppy is ready to be trained, what age do you usually start the actual field training and so forth with the dog?
I usually take client dogs after about 6 months old, and then anytime after that to about 3, 4. I haven't had anybody want to bring me anything much older than that, really. By that point, they're not hitting their prime yet, but they can be taught yet, but a lot of people don't want to invest the money in them at that point. They'd rather just get a new puppy and keep that one as a house pet. Personally, when I buy a puppy or keep a puppy, I start training it as soon as I possibly can. There's a lot of stuff to keep it fun and keep it enjoyable for the puppy, not so formalized that it goes back to the whole development process of getting what you want. Sure.
That's great to know, and certainly something I'm sure several of our viewers would probably appreciate. And we've got a lot of labs that come to our facility. I know there's a lot of people out there that are looking for good lab dogs. So I'm so glad that you took this time with us, and really appreciate what you're doing out there, and also like the fact that you're a hometown guy, and we love to support hometown people. So we really appreciate you being with us today. And please, I would say if some people want to have specific questions, and maybe there's enough reason to do another one of these, I'd love to have you back, and we could have some Q&A and go from there.
Sounds like a plan. I'm up for it anytime. And if anybody has any training questions or breed questions or anything, I'm always glad to help. Just contact us.
Sounds wonderful, Jeremy. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And again, this is Jeremy Ries with MoCo Bottoms Labs, and definitely give him a call or a Facebook message and let him know if you're interested or have questions, like he said. Thanks again, Jeremy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.